Or good morning or whenever it is you get this. Yeah, so in light of the potential changes that we're going to be seeing here in the next couple of weeks with the new governor's mandates, I thought it would be prudent for us to get back to Lightroom and maybe spend a little less time in Photoshop. So with that being said, let's just jump right in. Let's do a quick refresh of where everything's located in Lightroom, and then we're going to talk about these three tools today: the brush tool, the linear, and the radial gradient tool. All right, so just by way of navigation, over here on the right, on the left, we can add new photos. We've got our home, we've got your photos, and then the galleries that you're sharing. So if we go to the home, just real quick, we've got the recent images that you may have worked on, and then you also have these. These are the Learn tutorials that you can do. Again, if you're keen on learning kind of as much as you can out of this class, these aren't necessarily going to ever really be a requirement, but they're very good to learn from. So if you hit the Learn button here, you can learn by topic, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, whatever. You can learn by tools, so if you want to learn the color mixer or split toning or detail, whatever, right? It's all there. Okay. So moving on, we've got our libraries here. If we hit this, or it's called My Photos, excuse me, we can go to All Photos. Now, the reason I had you select a image that had sort of dark on one side, light on the other, is because today we're going to be working with the brush, the linear, and the radial gradient tools. Now, let's talk about a little bit about the brush. Now, using Photoshop, we've kind of gotten used to a very useful brush in Photoshop. The brush in Lightroom is also very useful. However, it's got a little bit of nuances to it that make it somewhat frustrating to use. So let me show you what I mean by that. So let's say that I wanted to, just for whatever reason, to color on this yellow wall, right? So I'm going to squiggle out here with my brush over here. To get to your brush, the keyboard shortcut is B. And now I've got this selection made. And I can turn my quick mask mode on by just bringing the cursor right over that blue dot, and it lets me know where I colored. Okay? Now by default, yours will look like this. But if you want to change some settings to what the brush dynamics look like, you can do this. Change the size, the feathering, the flow, the density, which is also known as opacity. And you may or may not have noticed, but the bracket keys work the same as they do in Photoshop that they do in Lightroom. Okay, so back to the frustrating feature of the brush tool. So here I've made my brush, okay? And let's say I wanted to just make that area, turn down the temperature or the exposure, whatever, okay? That's great, we've done it, it's over. Okay, but now let's say that I wanted to make a different adjustment that would allow me to change it to blue, right? So if I come out here and draw again, it's going to match the same settings that I did that first one and made those adjustments with, okay, which isn't what we wanted. So I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. And to make a new brush stroke, you come up to this little plus sign here, and it will say Start New Brushing. So I'm going to click that. Then I have to actually come down here and I have to hit Reset All Sliders. And then if I make a new adjustment, like to make it green, now it's going to do that for me. Okay? Or if I wanted to decrease the highlights or increase the white values or whatever. Okay? So now every time I make that brush stroke, it's matching what I had set to this one. See, they're all under the same quick mask. If I want to make a new brush selection, I have to come up and hit the plus sign again. And now when I make adjustments there, it's going to adjust that one. Okay? So a little bit frustrating. But all you really need to know is that every time you want to make a new brush stroke, you have to hit that plus sign. Okay. Now, the other thing we can do with the brush tool is actually just use it like a brush that we had or may have used in Photoshop. And that is down here. We toggle over this slider, and we can just paint in green. Okay? So now I'm just painting with a green brush. Okay? So very useful is the brush tool. Okay? Next up, let's talk about the linear and radial gradient tools. Now, they're effectively the same thing, except one does them in straight lines and one does them in circles. So I like to use this one because it's just obvious to see. So I'm going to click L on my keyboard and bring up the linear gradient tool. Now what this does is, that's not very visible, let's try it maybe on this one, is I've got these three lines, okay? Now what these three lines are going to give me are three separate waypoints along my gradient, or feathering, if you will, along my gradient. At this point, they will be at 100% opaque. At this point, they will be at 100% transparent. This is 50%, okay? So let me show you what that's going to do. Let's just underexpose it on purpose, okay? So here, and then again, I can toggle on my masking layer by doing that. So here, at this point, this is adding that -4 EV, and then this is at 0, and then here's 50%. Okay, so we see that very dramatic to start, and then it gets very reduced to the end. Okay, now depending on how far apart I space these, you can see the gradient is becoming less and less compact as I increase the size, and it's becoming very compact as I bring them closer together. Okay, and then I could bring that right here and make her look like you know, standing on the beach, you know, White Sands National Monument or whatever it is. You know, we can see that we've added that gradient. Okay. Now, very useful because we can change things like exposure or whatever. So on this picture of my son Lincoln here, you know, I can bring a gradient layer here and put it by his face, and then I can brighten up this side. And this is why I had you take the initial picture there. I can increase the shadows here and the highlights to make it look like that shadow on his face is a little less pronounced. We'll hit delete on that. It's okay. It's a fine picture to begin with, so I don't really mind. But, you know, there's how we do it. The other thing that you may find yourself doing is maybe adding a white balance increasement or decreasing, right? So if I bring this here and put it here, I'm going to try and match the sun, which is hitting her on the side of the face here. And, you know, I can increase that. And it looks, that's obviously way overdone, so we're going to bring it back down, but you can see the effect and where it's taking place by initially overdoing it. Okay. Now I'm starting to get this gray, yellow in the granite here, so I don't want to do that. Now what I'm going to do is zoom in here, and then if I bring my cursor just outside, it gives me those movement arrows. So then if I click and rotate, well, that went all the way. That's a new selection. If I find those arrows, oh man, they're kind of hard to grab. Let's hit L. Where are we? L. Okay, so I had to select it first. Then we can sort of get rid of that yellow down here on that granite block. Okay. Now you can add multiple gradients. Like for example, if I wanted to do another one down here that was taking effect in the other way, right? I would come here, and then if I adjust this to make it go blue or cool it down, you know, we can do that. You can add as many as you want to. You can even undo what you've already done or make it worse or stronger, not worse, stronger. In this case, worse, because this image now looks like garbage. In case you cared, we paid the mortgage. Hooray, that's great. Sweet. Okay, let's look at another one. Now, oftentimes you're not necessarily improving the image per se, but you're giving it your own touch, right? So as a photographer, a working professional, right, you want to have images that are recognizably yours. Like when somebody looks at it, they can say, oh yeah, that's so-and-so's, right? Like I know that that's what that looks like, okay? And a lot of people will use gradient layers, linear gradients to do that. So let's maybe do that to this image, right? It's got this nice, like, I don't know, bright summer sun image, but if I wanted to add a little bit more summer sun to this, right, I'm going to add this, and I'm going to bring down a color overlay, and just like I'm going to go to this red for fun, I don't know, and then I'm just going to drag it down to where it's not so pronounced, a little more decreased, okay? And you know, you can see the effect that we can move on and off, right? But that's how we do it to the entire image. Now to radial gradient, let me start again. Radial gradients, they work the same way, except now we're just dealing with circles. Okay, so I'm going to bring this here. pardon me, if I want to make this look like the sun was over here, I would bring up the exposure a whole bunch there, and then increase the white. Now I want to kind of make it match this sort of that auburny red, garnet, not auburn. I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter. We can do that. We can increase our tint and change it out there. Okay. Okay, so that's it. Essentially, very, very kind of quick and dirty. Edit your own image that you will have uploaded and taken, and then save your image and upload it to upload it to Canvas. Now, to save your image, you can come up here to the share button, and then go to export as a JPEG. And once this dialog box comes up, I always recommend saving to the desktop or wherever you're comfortable with. If you're working online, lightroom.adobe.com, you're not going to click the share button, you're going to click the download button, which is just next to it right here. And the arrow, instead of going up, points down. And then we just click export, and there we go. We've got a JPEG saved with that on there that you can submit to Canvas. And yeah, that's all. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, let me know. Otherwise, have a terrific day. We'll see you all soon.